Hey guys, it's Drew, and well, this is not a real video. And I don't mean that like I'm gonna be like disingenuous or this is like an AI video. I would never do that to you guys, but this is not the real. This is not what I usually post on this channel. If there's anyone, tuning back in, of course, then you would know I post and talk about music and art and life. And that's kind of it. And I don't usually like plan out these videos whatsoever. It's just kind of what's on my mind as it comes up and just exploring that again as it comes up. But right now, what's on my mind is that, well, this Saturday, May 16th, I have a show coming up. I'll put up the flyer there, perhaps, and I'm going to keep leaning this way. But since that's what's on my mind, I'm just going to talk about that. Alright. And to be fair, like, I'm going to be doing a lot of talking about me, but just kind of also about my journey here, my mindset towards being an artist in the good year of 2026. So if you'll indulge me, I will appreciate that forever. So let's see, where to even begin? I started playing music in like fourth grade. I started on the violin actually. I still have my violin, and I mean I play it like once every 6 months. That's great. But really, if it wasn't just for like private violin lessons in fourth grade, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I played throughout school, throughout high school. I played in a like high school level bluegrass group, and it was legit. I mean, we played shows all over, like locally, and then we also toured. My freshman year of high school, we toured down Route 66, just kind of playing shows all along the way. It was probably in that moment subconsciously I knew that I love music. This is what I want to do. But well, if you couldn't tell, I'm Indian, and music and creative and business kind of paths are just not an option, I feel, for Indian people, at least where I grew up. It's kind of always, go to college for something in STEM. And don't say STEAM because you can't put arts in STEAM. I think that's bullshit. But, sorry, arts and STEM. I don't know what I said actually. STEAM or STEM. But, anyways, that's what I did throughout high school. I'm sure I was involved in music very much, and it was, my favorite part of being in high school. But, I did the AP classes, I did whatever, all the academic stuff, and nothing against people who do all that, because, that is valuable in this world, and that is some people's actual passions in their life that they want to explore. But I did all that. I graduated high school in 2020, the super fun year to graduate. And I think it was like partially my external influence of, engineer, doctor, whatever, with the combination of COVID that kind of just led me to be like, okay, well, no one knows what's going to happen. I'm just going to play it safe. And that's kind of what I did. I went to engineering school. I ended up going there for about a year and a half, and due to many life things, being away from home, I'll talk about this more, but I developed a drinking and smoking habit that was pretty destructive to me. But due to all these things, I kind of realized that hey, I like music way more than what I'm doing at college. I started picking up other instruments. I started picking up the guitar. I got a mandolin, which is kind of like a violin. It's a fun instrument. But then I also started producing and writing my own songs. And I mean, those songs exist out there somewhere on the internet, somewhere on SoundCloud. If you really want, you could find them. I don't recommend. They're pretty good for what they were, but man, I've improved a lot. And so, yeah, that was summer of 2021. I decided, hey, this is not the right path for me. I like music way more. And not only just like music, it felt like it was my path. It was my calling. More than a passion, even. It was a calling. And of course, I'm sure that many others who have gone down the artistic path can relate to what I'm saying when I say that it's this calling. Like, sure, there are people that kind of do music and art or whatever just for fun because they think it's fun, and they can make money off of it. It's a fun career. But I mean, no, it was kind of deeper than that for me. And I'm not saying that to be like holier than thou, but it's like when you're turning down a engineering salary, that's what I was in college for, for kind of an unstable artist type of life. I feel like that's gotta be something deeper. You don't just do that. But anyways, after dropping out of school, I spent about a year just trying to figure out my game plan of what I was gonna do. I'm thankful that my parents were able to house me. They didn't necessarily support my decision. They thought it was kind of a phase, like he's just going through something, he needs to figure it out, and then in a year he'll be back in engineering school. But I mean, in my mind, like, no, hell no, I'm not doing that. And really, that was just a simple, I mean, relatively simple time in my life where I was just at home making music, learning software, learning, music theory and all this like music, just kind of really starting to immerse myself into music. And then like I mentioned before, I kind of developed a alcohol and drug habit during this time as well just cuz I mean, I don't know, I was still figuring things out. I didn't really have a foundation of my personal identity. Like, I would tell people, like, yeah, I'm an artist. Yeah, I'm an artist. I would say that, like, over and over, and I bet my friends at the time thought that was obnoxious, and, I guess fair enough. But hey, man, I think I just needed that. Anyways, I decided that I was going to move to California. I got accepted into a program at a college out there, and it was just a certificate program, so it's like a 6-month program. I wasn't like committing to another degree. During that time also I got a job at a local music shop, which, I mean, if you're an artist, don't work at a music shop or a art store, because it's one thing to like create the music, it's another thing to sell the equipment. And I mean, I just did not like that. And again, I was just kind of like circling the drain in terms of my drinking and like smoking type of thing and other drug use and whatnot. I actually ended up getting fired from that job because I stayed out really late one night and then I just like completely slept through a shift. And if you know anything about like minimum wage type jobs, you can't do that. You gotta at least call out, right? I just missed the entire shift. So yeah, I mean, that was a pretty rough time in my life. I said it was a simple time, but it was pretty rough too. It was probably the worst time in my life. Without going into too much detail, I would say I hit rock bottom during that time in my life, and well, getting clean and staying sober is probably the hardest thing I've had to do. I mean, it is the hardest thing I've had to do, and probably will be the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, at least for a good little bit. I got sober, or I first got clean, off of everything 5 days before I moved out to California. And I was still 20, so I wasn't even like 21. I wasn't even legal drinking age, and I had an issue with drugs already. But anyways, I got sober 5 days before, and I'm happy to share that I'm still sober. I'm just over 3 years, 3.5 years of being sober, and man, I'm grateful. I always try to look for like a silver lining in like these horrible, horrendous situations, and that silver lining for me, and has continued to be, is that there'll always be a good song to come out of any shitty experience. And that's what I did. I moved to California. I wrote a bunch of songs about, you know, getting clean and just like this conflict I feel within myself where it's like, shit, I know what I'm doing is wrong, but I mean, that's why they say addiction is a disease. It's you can't stop. And this video is not like about my sobriety. I'll just leave it there, I guess. I could make another video about that, but I mean, I wrote a lot about my experience with sobriety and how it affects relationships and my mental health and whatnot. And yeah, I lived in California for just about a year, and it was great. I recorded and released an EP called It's Not Me, It's You. And again, like, that one actually is still on Spotify. I'm going to link all of that in the description in case anyone wants to check it out. But that EP is still on my Spotify. And again, I am proud of it for what it was, but I'm a lot better now. So yeah, like I said, a year in California, and then I decided to move back for a number of reasons, mostly because California is just really expensive. And while I was doing that school, like college program, the certificate program, my parents were able to help me like pay rent. I still had a job, but like help me pay rent, give me like an allowance for groceries. But once I was not in school, they were like, yeah, we're not gonna do that. You have to pay your own rent. which, fair enough. So I decided to move back here, and on top of that, I already had like a network around the area which I grew up. I feel like I'm being like unnecessarily vague about where I grew up. I grew up in Michigan, and that's also currently where I live. And in about the 6 months that I first moved back, it was kind of weird. It was just like, man, I felt like I was gonna live my life out in California, be one of those guys, and now here I am, back in Michigan, kind of back where I started, back of the scene of the crime almost, right? And I wrote an album about it. It's my first album. I'm very proud of this album. It's called Into the Night. This is the CD version, of course, and it's a very like DIY type of vibe to it. I have a lyrics pamphlet here, but it's 9 songs. Is that gonna come through? Yeah, 9 songs. Some of them were written in my time in California. Some of them were written even before I moved to California. Most of them were written after. But I would say this is canonically my very first album, and it's not perfect. It's really not. Like I said, it's pretty DIY, but I feel like I learned how to write an album with this, and this is my artwork too. This is just a scribble drawing I did. Oh, come on. And this is my sober album. A lot of these songs kind of delve into that, sobriety, how it affects my relationships, how it affects my family, and my own vision of myself. This is Into the Night. So yeah, like I said, Into the Night, I kind of learned how to write an album, so I kind of rolled with that. And a year later, I wrote my second album. Wrote, recorded, produced, mixed, mastered my second album, which is called A World I Built in My Mind. So basically, I saw the Northern Lights. This is literally in my front yard. They came down to Michigan, summer of 2023 or 2024. And I don't know, something about that changed my life, man. Like, I would always consider myself to be like a romantic, or like a romantic, like someone who romanticizes things. And so to see this is kind of like, well, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. That's why I kind of wrote an album about it. And if Into the Night was my like sober album, then A World I Built in My Mind is my depression album. I've had depression, clinical depression, for pretty much most of high school, and to this day still technically. But if my last album helped me come to terms with my sobriety, then this album helped me come to terms with my depression. And again, a lot of these songs are themes of like, not only depression, but how it affects other aspects of life, how it manifests in rage, and how it affects relationships, and how I see myself, whatnot, all that stuff. And I just put this out actually in October of 2025, just last year. I don't think I've said it actually. I'm a heavy metal artist, and all these songs are heavy metal or some kind of variant of it. Yeah, and also with this album, I feel like I am learning how to, be an artist, and how to not, sell out and make a bunch of algorithm bait. Like, I can step into my own almost as an artist, or at least start to. Like, these videos, for example, if you're still watching, oh my god, that's amazing. But, like, the fact that I can make these kinds of videos and put it out there, and people have been connecting with me, and it's incredible. I feel like, well, I don't even know. I always thought that you had to make a stupid funny skit, or, follow trends to get attention, but, it's not even attention that I'm after now. It's that connection, which I'm super grateful for those of you who watch the videos and comment and all that. It's a huge support for what I'm trying to do here. And well, even if you don't, end up listening to the music or whatever, just, being on the channel, engaging with the channel, is huge. So thank you. But yeah, that kind of leads into where I'm at right now. And like I said in the very beginning of this video, I have a show this Saturday, and I'm pretty excited, man. I'm pretty excited. I think I already put up the flyer. I did put up the flyer, but here it is again. It's still there. It's still there. Okay. But yeah, I'm going to practice my set pretty much after I film this video. I'm going to eat some lunch and practice the set. I also do have shirts for this show, and they look really good. Hold on. So this is the one shirt. It's just the logo. It's on like a sand type of shirt. I feel like a lot of bands have like the black shirt with white logo, which is fine, but I just wanted something a little different for my logo shirt. And then the other shirt, this is the world I built in my mind artwork t-shirt. It says, that. And then there's my logo, of course. But I had a coworker at my old job. She was like a painter, and I commissioned her to do this painting for me, and I put it on a shirt, and I really like it. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's kind of all I have to say. Again, it's kind of unreal that I'm reaching people. I have like this is an old camera. It's probably older than I am, and it's like the 3x4 aspect ratio and all that. But yeah, man, if you're watching this, like, it's awesome. Thank you. I feel like there's not as many romantics out there that romanticize stuff and, just kind of paint pictures out of life. So I guess it just feels good to see some of y'all out there. But yeah, that's all I got for today. I'll see you next time. Peace.